Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is really great to have you with us again today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
So today we are doing something that I think is going to be a little bit different for us. We aren't just analyzing a text or a set of data points. We are, well, effectively setting the dials on the time machine.
Right.
We're going back to a very specific Monday night, October 23, 1967.
That is a highly specific date. I mean, you think about the context, right? The summer of love is just sort of winding down. The world outside is changing rapidly.
Exactly.
But for this, we are heading inside. We're going right into a living room in Elmira, New York.
And you can just picture the vibe. It's relaxed. It's likely a bit hazy with cigarette smoke because, let's be honest, it is the 60s.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And in this living room, a very strange party is about to start. But this isn't your standard dinner party at all.
Not even close.
The guest of honor essentially has no physical body. And the entertainment for the evening involves furniture that completely refuses to obey the laws of physics.
It is genuinely one of the most eclectic evenings recorded in these archives.
For sure.
We are looking squarely today at session 374 of the early sessions, book 8 of the Seth Material.
And just looking at the stack of notes you've brought to the table today for this, this session really does seem to have it all. It's a very strange cocktail of topics.
It really runs the gamut.
We've got these deep, almost clinical psychological insights on the nature of illness.
Right.
And then we have highly specific dietary advice that involves, of all things, alfalfa tea and peanut oil.
Which is so specific.
And then we have a finale that sounds like something straight out of a chaotic poltergeist movie. But the weird thing is, it's played for laughs.
Yeah, that's what makes session 374 such a gem, I think. It is a perfect entry point for anyone trying to understand the Seth Material.
How so?
Because it shows the sheer range of what was happening in that living room. It isn't just dry, abstract philosophy about the nature of consciousness.
It's not a textbook.
Exactly. It's practical, it is health-oriented, and sometimes it is just undeniably weird and, frankly, funny. It grounds all the woo-woo concepts in a very gritty human reality.
I love that. But before we unleash the dancing furniture, we do need to handle a bit of housekeeping.
Good call.
Just so everyone listening knows, this deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
That's right. And while we're going to discuss some very specific health advice that comes up in the session today, we need to be crystal clear here. We are explorers of the text.
Right. We are not your doctors.
We are absolutely not doctors. We are not telling you to throw out your prescriptions and try to live on alfalfa.
Please don't do that.
We are just here to unpack what the source material actually says, not to prescribe it to anyone.
Exactly. Our mission today is to see how Seth, the entity being channeled by Jane Roberts, navigates between profound wisdom and what effectively amounts to a paranormal parlor trick. So set the scene for us. It's 9:15 p.m. Jane Roberts is there. Her husband, Rob Butts, is taking his usual meticulous notes. And they have a guest this time.
Yes, the witness for this session is a man named John Bradley.
Okay.
He's a medical salesman from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And right off the bat, before we even get into any of the heavy stuff, Seth, speaking through Jane, gives us a really clear glimpse of his own personality.
I loved this part of the transcript.
Yeah.
Because usually, you'd expect a disembodied spirit guide to be very solemn, very sort of, "Greetings, mortals, I have arrived."
Right, very grandiose.
But Seth pops in and just immediately cracks a joke about the guest sitting right there in the room.
He really does. The session opens, and Seth says, and I quote, "Good evening, and welcome as always to our friend, our cocky friend. I am delighted at his visit."
Our cocky friend. I mean, talk about breaking the ice.
It creates this immediate sense of familiarity and wit. Seth isn't a robot. He has opinions on the people in the room with him.
He's reading the room.
He reads John Bradley's energy and just calls it exactly like he sees it. Cocky. But clearly, he's using it as a term of endearment.
Right.
It sets a tone that is incredibly relaxed. They aren't in some grand cathedral. They are just hanging out in a living room.
And that relaxed tone is actually super important because the first topic they tackle is something that Rob, Jane's husband, has actually been stressing out about.
Yes. We need to talk about table tipping.
Table tipping.
Yeah.
So for context, for you listening, table tipping was a pretty popular phenomenon in spiritualist circles.
Very popular.
Basically, people sit around a table, they place their hands lightly on the top of it, and the table supposedly moves. It tips or taps out messages from spirits.
Right. And Rob had been experimenting with this recently. Specifically, he was doing it with a couple called the Gallaghers.
But Rob isn't just having fun with it, is he? The source material mentions he has got some real anxiety about the whole thing.
He does, and Seth calls it out specifically in the session. He says Rob still harbors Irish superstitions having to do with contacting the dead.
Irish superstitions. I just find that so fascinating.
It is a brilliant psychological layer.
Because here is Rob Butts, who is literally the scribe for a trance medium. He spends hours and hours listening to his wife channel this entity, Seth.
Right.
But when it comes to a wooden table moving, suddenly he gets spooked.
He's worried it's illegitimate. Or maybe that he's somehow opening a door to something dark or negative by doing it.
It's almost comforting to know that even the guys on the inside of this phenomenon, the ones writing the books, had doubts.
Oh, absolutely. They were skeptics in their own way.
So what does Seth say to him? Does he tell Rob to stop playing with the living room furniture?
Actually, quite the opposite. Seth completely validates it. He tells Rob that the session with the Gallaghers was legitimate.
Okay.
He confirms that they actually made contact with a specific entity, a Jesuit's father, to be exact.
So the ghost in the table was real.
According to Seth, yes.
But then Seth takes credit for some of the heavy lifting, which I thought was just hilarious.
It really is. So Seth explains that he actually helped Rob move the green table.
The green table?
Yeah. Now, in the notes, Jane points out this large, heavy green table by the living room window. It's a beast of a piece of furniture. Very heavy.
And Seth essentially says, hey, I gave you a hand with the heavy one.
He's like a spectral spotter at the gym. Like, that looks heavy, Rob. Let me get that for you.
Exactly. But then he adds a little caveat, right?
He does. He says Rob doesn't need his help with the small table.
You got the lightweights, kid. I'll handle the big stuff.
Precisely. But there is a much deeper point here beyond just the humor of a ghost moving a table. Seth calls these experiments stepping stones.
Stepping stones. Okay, stepping stones to what exactly?
To confidence. Seth is trying to get Rob to realize that his own energy, his own focus, can actually have an effect on the physical world.
Ah, I see.
Rob thinks he needs a ghost to move the table. Seth is hinting that Rob is doing much of the work himself, or at least he's facilitating it with his own consciousness.
So the table tipping isn't really the end goal?
No, it's practice. It's all about breaking down those Irish superstitions he mentioned.
Right.
And getting Rob to realize that the barrier between the physical and the non-physical is just much thinner than he thinks it is.
I really like that perspective.
Yeah.
It's not about the table at all. It's about the mindset. If you can accept that a table can move through non-physical means, you can start to accept much bigger things.
And speaking of bigger things, the session then takes a pretty hard left turn. We go straight from moving furniture to a very serious, very detailed discussion about health.
Right, this is the section about Peg Peacher.
Correct. Peg Peacher was an acquaintance of theirs who was suffering from an illness. Now, previous sessions mention multiple sclerosis, though in this specific session, she's just referred to as the ill woman.
And Seth starts prescribing a diet for her. And when I say detailed, I mean detailed.
It is surprisingly specific. I'll give you the list. He mentions peanut oil,
Okay.
alfalfa, which he says she should take either as an extract or a tea,
Alfalfa tea.
raisin bread and rye bread,
Specific breads.
and honey and nuts.
But there is one specific nut that is completely banned from the list.
Yes. He explicitly says no pecans.
That is just such a random detail. Did he say why no pecans?
He doesn't explain the biochemistry of the pecan prohibition in this particular session, but the specificity itself serves a purpose here.
How so?
It shows that this isn't just a generic, oh, eat healthy, get lots of rest kind of platitude.
Right, it's tailored.
Exactly. He's looking at her specific chemical balance. Later on, he mentions she has an acid connection and a reaction to metal. The no pecans rule really underscores that individual biology is highly specific in his view.
That makes sense. But the diet is really just the surface level of this section. The real gold here, and this is the part I really want us to unpack for everyone listening, is Seth's theory on why she is sick in the first place.
Yes, this is the paced release theory. And honestly, this is one of the most profound insights in the entire Seth material regarding human health.
Okay, let's break it down. Seth says, and I want to read this quote directly, he says, "The illness has been accepted by the personality in place of deeply rooted problems. As any symptoms subside, the problems will be felt."
think about what that implies for a second. We usually think of illness as an invader.
Right, like a virus or a defect that attacks us from the outside.
But Seth is suggesting that in this case, the illness is actually a defense mechanism.
So, wait, the illness is actually protecting her?
In a weird way, yes. The personality has these deep-rooted emotional or psychological problems that it is just absolutely terrified to face.
Because they're too painful.
They're too painful, or they're too overwhelming. So the body basically steps in and says, okay, I will distract you. I will create a physical symptom.
Wow.
The physical pain becomes a container for the emotional pain.
Because it's easier to say, my legs hurt, than to say, my soul is broken.
Precisely. That is exactly it.
That is incredibly heavy. But it makes a lot of psychological sense. If you are busy managing a severe chronic illness all day, you literally don't have the time or energy to deal with your trauma.
Exactly. And this leads to what Seth calls the danger of rapid healing.
A danger to healing.
Yes. He warns that if she were to be miraculously cured overnight, it could actually be disastrous for her.
Because all those problems would come rushing back.
Right. He says otherwise the personality would become swamped by the problems that it has been trying so desperately to avoid.
That is such a fascinating concept, that getting well too fast can actually be a danger to the patient.
It's the concept of a dam bursting. The illness is the dam holding back the floodwaters of her issues. If you just remove the dam without draining the water first, the whole valley gets flooded. The personality goes into a state of shock.
So that is where the paced release part comes in.
Right. Seth advises a steady, progressive, but paced release from symptoms.
Meaning you have to take it slow.
You have to heal the body slowly enough that the mind actually has time to process the returning problems.
Because as the physical pain goes down, the emotional pain comes up.
Exactly. You have to deal with them in tandem. It's a delicate balance.
He even mentions that the patient might get angry if they start to heal, right?
He says the personality will show resentment.
Imagine that. You are physically getting better, your body is working again, but deep down, your subconscious is just furious because its shield is being taken away from it.
It really reframes the entire idea of fighting an illness. It's not just a battle against the physical body. It's a complex negotiation with the self.
And that's why Seth gives specific advice to her husband on how to talk to her about getting better.
Yes. He suggests using permissive suggestions rather than commanding ones.
Okay, what is the difference there?
So a commanding suggestion is something like, you will get better, you must walk.
Like an order.
Right, and that puts pressure on the ego. It creates resistance.
Because the subconscious feels attacked.
Exactly. A permissive suggestion, on the other hand, is softer. It's something like, you can improve. I know you can.
It's inviting.
It invites the subconscious to cooperate rather than trying to force it by sheer willpower. It respects the pace of the healing.
It's gentler. It's inviting health in rather than demanding it. I think that is something anyone listening can apply to their own lives, whether they're dealing with a chronic illness or honestly just trying to change a bad habit.
For sure.
Don't command yourself. Invite yourself.
Precisely. It aligns with the core Seth concept that we create our own reality, but we can't force it violently. We have to gently persuade our own beliefs to change.
Okay, so we had the table-tipping basics down. We have the alfalfa tea and the deep psychology of pace healing.
Right.
And then, just to keep things completely unpredictable, Seth decides to play a round of psychic detective.
This segment is wild. This is where he does a reading for the guest, John Bradley.
Right in the middle of the session.
Yeah, Seth just pauses and starts giving out these psychic impressions about a woman that John knows.
And this is particularly interesting for us to analyze because we actually get to see the hits and the misses in real time. It's not like a perfect, crystal clear video feed from the beyond.
No, not at all. And Seth freely admits that. He describes them as images within. It's highly symbolic. So let's look at the clues he actually drops for John.
Let's hear them.
Okay. He says he sees a town by a river.
Town by a river, check.
A connection to an older male, maybe a brother.
Okay.
He sees the letters S-E-V.
S-E-V, which is very specific.
He senses an Irish name or an Irish background. A connection to a small child, maybe around 6 years old, and a stage name.
And John Bradley is sitting there in the living room trying to piece this puzzle together in his head.
Right.
And he connects it to a woman named Terry Repanshek.
Yes. She's a nurse in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. Now, Hazleton itself isn't exactly located on a big river, but she had just recently moved from Philadelphia, which definitely is.
Yeah, that counts as a hit.
And the name Terry is an Irish name, so that's another hit.
But here is where it gets murky. Because John Bradley says, wait a minute, She's Italian, not Irish.
Right. And Seth saw brown hair in his vision, but John says she actually has black hair.
And what about the SEV thing? Seth clearly sees the letters S-E-V.
And John is initially completely stumped by that. But notice how Seth explains the process here. He says, I do not know the meaning of this impression unless she has one name and uses another.
So he's actively interpreting symbols.
Exactly. He sees quote-unquote Irishness, which maps to the name Terry in his interpretation, even if her actual genetics are Italian.
Oh, I see.
He sees a stage name, which might just symbolize that she feels like she's playing a role in her life, or maybe that her name doesn't really fit her true identity.
It really shows that psychic information, at least in this framework, is kind of like a game of charades.
That's a great way to put it.
The medium gets a picture or a feeling, and they have to try and put it into words. And sometimes that translation is just a little bit off.
Exactly. It's not 4K streaming. It is impressionistic. But the fact that he picked up on the town by a river and the specific dynamics of her life with the older brother and the child shows there was absolutely a genuine connection happening there.
Okay, so we've done the deep psychology, we've done the detective work. Now we have to talk about the after party.
The after party, yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is the best part of the entire document.
So the formal session ends. Jane comes out of her trance state. It's around 10:35 p.m.
They've got to be exhausted.
They're tired.
Hmm?
But John Bradley is curious. He has never seen a table tip before in his life. So despite the really late hour, they decide, let's just try it.
Right. So they get the small table, not the heavy green one that Seth helped with earlier, but a lighter one.
And they put it on the rug.
Yes, they put it on the rug to muffle the noise because, it's late and they don't want to wake the neighbors downstairs.
And what happens next?
At first, it's pretty standard stuff for a seance. It taps out a few letters, it identifies an entity, but then they decide to ask the table to do a dance.
Because apparently, according to Rob's notes, the table had danced a jig a few nights prior.
Right, they had a history with this table. So the table spells out a message. It taps out ILLMAKEADANCE.
I'll make a dance.
Yes. And then chaos. Absolute chaos breaks out in the living room. The notes describe it as a wild episode. The table literally starts hopping. Physically hopping off the ground.
And they have to chase it.
Yes. Just imagine this visual for a second. It is nearly midnight. You have Jane, Rob, and John Bradley, who is a medical salesman, in a suit, by the way.
In a suit.
Running around the living room trying to keep a hopping table on the rug, because every time it gets to the edge of the rug, they have to physically drag it back so it doesn't bang loudly on the hardwood floor and wake the whole building.
It's like wrestling a pet dog that has the zoomies.
Exactly, but it's a wooden dog.
This is where the story shifts from just being funny to being scientifically baffling. Rob takes the time to describe the actual physics of what he felt. And this was the part that genuinely gave me chills reading it. It wasn't just hopping. It was actively resisting gravity.
The table would tip up on two legs and just balance there, perfectly poised. Now, normally, if you push down on the high side of a table, it should just slam back down to the floor. That's how gravity works.
But it didn't do that.
No. Rob says they tried to push it down and it pushed back.
It pushed back against them.
He describes it as an active pressure.
He used the magnet analogy, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He said it felt like magnets when one repels the other.
Oh, wow.
You know that feeling when you try to push two north poles of a magnet together? There's that invisible sort of spongy resistance. He felt that exact cushion of force holding the table up in the air.
That is profound. I mean, we aren't talking about a muscle spasm or someone unconsciously lifting it with their fingers here.
No.
We're talking about an invisible force that can counteract the weight of the table and the strength of a grown man pushing down on it.
And the craziest part is they tested it. They were taking turns shifting positions around the table to make absolutely sure no one was faking it.
They were basically being objective scientific observers in the middle of this absolute absurdity.
Exactly. They realized they were interacting with a physical force that physics says absolutely shouldn't exist.
And yet, despite all of that, the reaction in the room wasn't terror. Nobody was screaming.
No. It was hilarity.
Tell us about John Bradley's reaction to all this.
The poor guy. Remember, this is his first time ever seeing anything even remotely like this.
Right.
He is seeing a piece of furniture dance in circles, balance on one leg, scoot in straight lines across the room, and the sheer absurdity of it just completely breaks him.
He loses it.
The notes literally say he ended up laughing until the tears rolled down his cheeks.
I love that image so much. 3 adults, past midnight, chasing a dancing table around a room, laughing until they cry. It just perfectly captures the vibe of the early Seth sessions.
It really does. It's not this dark, gloomy, gothic horror scenario. It is joyful, it's weird, it's high-energy strangeness.
It connects right back to what Seth said at the very beginning of the night, the cocky friend comment.
Yes. The universe, as Seth describes it, isn't a somber, serious place. It is playful. Consciousness likes to play.
It has a sense of humor.
Sometimes that means creating a complex physical reality, and sometimes it just means making a table do a jig to make a tired salesman laugh.
It's a really great reminder for all of us that the unknown doesn't always have to be scary. It can be delightful.
And it also serves that function of the stepping stone we talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
Think about it. If John Bradley had seen a full-body, glowing apparition of a ghost, he might have been terrified out of his mind.
I would have run out the door.
But a dancing table... That's funny. It bypasses the fear response entirely. It opens his mind to the possibility of the paranormal without shattering his psyche.
Oh, look at you connecting the dots. The dancing table is essentially a permissive suggestion to John Bradley's worldview.
Exactly. It's saying, like, you can believe in this. See? It's fun. It's not going to hurt you.
That is brilliant. Well, we have covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We have learned that we shouldn't eat pecans if we are Peg Petrie.
Good advice.
We've learned that we absolutely shouldn't rush our healing because our physical symptoms might actually be holding back our inner demons.
That's a huge takeaway.
And we have learned that if a table decides it wants to dance, you better be ready to chase it across the rug.
And we learned that Seth is a pretty good spotter for heavy lifting.
That too. Always get a spotter for the green table.
Definitely.
As we wrap up today, I really want to leave you, the listener, with that image of a magnetic repulsion we talked about.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That distinct feeling of an invisible force pushing back against Rob's hands.
It's a tangible, physical reminder that there is so much more to the world than what we can just see with our eyes. We tend to think empty space is just empty.
Right.
But in that living room in Elmira, empty space was strong enough to hold up a wooden table against human strength.
If consciousness can do that to a random piece of furniture, just imagine what it's doing in the rest of our lives.
Right.
What else is being held up or pushed down by invisible forces that we are generating ourselves every single day?
That is the big question. And if you want to find the answer, you can't just listen to us talk about it.
That's right. You have to go straight to the source material.
We barely even scratched the surface of session 374 today. There is just so much more depth in the books themselves. We strongly encourage you to study the Seth Material books for yourself.
Don't take our word for it. Go visit the New Awareness Network website. You can find all the books and a ton more information at their bookstore at sethcenter.com for the early sessions.
It is a rabbit hole completely worth going down. Just maybe bolt your furniture to the floor first before you start reading.
Or at least put down a thick rug so you don't scratch the hardwood when the coffee table starts hopping.
Good advice.
Thank you so much for joining us on this trip back to 1967. It has been an absolute blast.
It really has. Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep your mind open, keep your questions ready, and watch out for dancing tables.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you in the next deep dive.